Let's face it, the year 2021 was quite disappointing for a number of us just living in the world this past year. And we feel like saying, hey, let's kick 2021 to the curb, move on to 2022. But then again, a lot of people would have said that about 2020. A couple disappointing years for many reasons. But we're just talking college football and the most disappointing teams for 2021. We had so many. We've got an honorable mention list. So Florida State, Iowa State, and also let's throw in Stanford as well. You didn't quite make the top 10, but a lot of disappointing teams this season. Think about it. Let's start at number 10. And a 10-3 team you wouldn't think would make the most disappointing list, but here it is, the Clemson Tigers. Just consider what Dabo Swinney has built in Clemson, South Carolina from 2015 through 2020. They went to the playoffs every year. They won 6 consecutive ACC championships. Their record, let me check it, 79-6. They won 2 national championships. They went to a couple more national championship games. Elite. Well, they started off at 2-2. They were knocked out of the ACC race. They finished at 10-3 with a great run, but all in all, this is almost a testament to how great this Clemson program is. That 10-3 is a disappointment. Our number 10 most disappointing team in 2021. At number 9, James Franklin and Penn State. James Franklin started his career at Penn State going 7-6 and 7-6. Got off to a bad start in 2016, turned it around, and made that historic run to the Rose Bowl with a win over Ohio State and a Big Ten championship. And Penn State's been pretty darn good since then. They won 3 New Year's Six games, won 2 of those, lost the Rose Bowl, but won the Cotton Bowl and also won a Fiesta Bowl. 3 11-win seasons. Also finished in the top 15 4 consecutive seasons. Then came a downer in 2020 at 4-5, but a lot of people dismissed that. Hey, truncated pandemic year, didn't really count. 4-5. They got off to a lousy 0-5 start, then won 4 consecutive games to close out the year and bring in optimism into 2021. But Penn State dropped a lot of big games. Sometimes they looked the part of a top 10 team, but not nearly enough, and they dropped the bowl game to Arkansas at the Outback Bowl 24-10 to fall to 7-6. This Penn State team has won only 11 of its last 22 games. On to the number 8 most disappointing team, a team that just played on this night of the record. The LSU Tigers at 7-6-7 with a huge loss to Kansas State in the Texas Bowl, 42-20. 2019 was a long time ago. And Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are doing good things in Cincinnati, taking the Bengals to new heights, but they are no longer wearing LSU purple and gold, and LSU has dropped from undefeated national champion and historic all-time team to, again, a 5-5 and then a 6-7 finish at Orgeron. Long gone. LSU needs to rebuild. All right, Brian Kelly, take over. At number 7, we've got a team that's a pretty darn good football team, much like our Clemson selection at number 10, 8-4 Texas A&M. And what's kind of surprising about possibly this selection is that Texas A&M has generally been an 8-4 type team under Kevin Sumlin and now Jimbo Fisher. But this is the team that went 9-1 in 2020, finished in the top 5 in the nation after an Orange Bowl victory, and then with these tremendous recruiting classes, much was expected of Texas A&M. Had you told most people entering 2021 the Aggies will beat Bama, then we would have expected huge things. Texas A&M did beat Bama, but they also lost a slew of other games. They finished 8-4. Disappointing season out of the Aggies, but the number 1 recruiting class, of course, heading into 2022. At number 6, we stay in the SEC and go to Gainesville, Florida. The Florida Gators. What a strange year in 2020. It ended horribly with a blowout loss in the Cotton Bowl, 55-20, an embarrassing loss. And Dan Mullen was basically an embarrassment during the offseason between 2020 and 2021. After beating Georgia, winning the SEC Eastern Division, taking Bama to the wire in the conference championship game. And then they get off to a decent start in 2021. They win their first couple of games, take Bama to the wire. So despite the loss, they still look good. And hey, we think maybe Florida is going to maintain this elevation under Dan Mullen. No. Too many internal problems, too many defensive struggles, not a clear-cut selection at quarterback, and Dan Mullen, it was his own undoing. They fall apart, and of course, Florida loses that game to South Carolina as a huge favorite, and Dan Mullen ousted. Florida finishes at 6-7. Billy Napier, it's all yours. All right, now to number 5. Nebraska, 3-9. Scott Frost is now 15-29 in his tenure at Nebraska. That is atrocious. This is such a strange situation in which you look game to game and look at the performance against the likes of Oklahoma, Ohio State, Michigan State, Iowa, Wisconsin, and others. Nebraska, I know technically they lost by 2 scores to Ohio State, but the Buckeyes clinched the game with 90 seconds left. They basically lost close 1-score games to everybody. So the performance on the field, somewhat impressive, but you got to beat somebody besides Buffalo, Fordham, and Northwestern. Nebraska 3-9, one of the most disappointing teams of 2021. Our number 4 team as we stay in the Big Ten but go to the Eastern Division, Tom Allen. You got to love this guy, his enthusiasm, his passion, his determination. He was building Indiana into a winner. A couple of years ago, 8-4, went to a bowl game against Tennessee. And then in 2020, they almost knock off Ohio State. They finish in the top 15 in the country. They open this season ranked number 17 in the AP poll. They get blasted by Iowa in week 1. And it slowly came unraveled. No, it quickly came unraveled. Michael Penix injured. It seemed like just about everybody in the offense and defense injured. This was not the same team at the conclusion of the season that it was at the outset. This team played Cincinnati down to the final 4 or 5 minutes in the game, but Indiana just kept losing and losing and losing, and then they just fell apart and started to get drubbed in October and November. They finished 2-10. They did not win a game in the Big Ten. This was the worst team in the Big Ten. Didn't think it most of the season, kept thinking, oh, Indiana's having a bad season, but they're just barely losing. They came apart. 0-8 in the Big Ten. Tom Allen's Indiana Hoosiers, the 4th most disappointing team in college football in 2021. Who's number 3? Mack Brown in North Carolina. They went 6-7. They went to a bowl game. They lost to South Carolina. Not so bad, considering that North Carolina's not been a really, really good football team for quite some time, but consider that Mack Brown took over for Larry Fedora, turned things around instantly, and then coming off an Orange Bowl appearance in 2020, this was the chic pick for anybody looking for a team to dethrone Clemson in the ACC. This was the team, North Carolina, Sam Howell. But no, they dearly missed their 2,000-yard rushers from 2020, their 3 elite wide receivers, their best defensive player, Chaz Surratt, and the offensive line was terrible. Sam Howell didn't have a chance. North Carolina lost the opener to Virginia Tech, and it was all downhill from there. Carolina 6-7, our number 3 most disappointing team of the 21 season. At number 2, USC. USC, it looked to have enough talent, especially coming off of 5-1 finish in 2020, a team that went to the Pac-12 championship game under Keaton Slovis to come back and compete and probably be the favorite. They were the favorite to win the South Division and get to the conference title game. This team was flat out awful. I could go through all these teams and point out a number of bright spots, high points for all of these teams during 2021, except USC. USC was so bad, they were down by 4 scores, 28 points to Stanford in the 4th quarter. They lost to Oregon State by 18. They beat Arizona by a touchdown. Okay, they won the game, but they barely beat Arizona, who had lost 1 million consecutive games. USC gave up 62 points to UCLA. 4-8 USC, the second most disappointing team of 2021. And at number 1, we go to the heart of Texas. Steve Sarkisian's 5-7 Longhorns, disappointing to the core. They started off the season, they beat a good Louisiana team. They finished 12-1, 13-1. Okay, they did get trampled by Arkansas in the second half. Okay, they got beat down by Arkansas, but still, this was a team that had we talked about it, and we did right here at the Voice of College Football, at halftime of the Oklahoma game, Texas is 4-1, and they're up on the Sooners by 3 touchdowns. They looked like they were primed to make a run to the Big 12 championship game. Then, of course, they blew it against OU. The next 2 games, they played capably. They had big leads against Oklahoma State and against Baylor. They blew second-half leads against really good teams. Of course, the 2 teams that went to the Big 12 championship game. And then they just didn't play good football after that. They lost to Kansas. Texas lost to Kansas, gave up 57 points to Kansas. Yes, the most disappointing team of 2021, Texas, 5-7. Who did we miss? Shoot, we covered 13 teams. We probably didn't miss anyone, but leave your comments down below in the comment section. And, of course, subscribe, like the videos here at the Voice of College Football, and share them out on social media to help us build the channel right here at the Voice of College Football.